Welcome to Climate Quickies, bite-sized nuggets of climate goodness from our TEDxLondon experts in under 5 minutes.
In this week's Climate Curious, we're speaking to the 15-year-old who has campaigned to protect an ancient coastal habitat under threat of redevelopment on the southern coastal area of Eurobadala in Australia. While out photographing his favourite pair of owls in early 2023, 15-year-old Ned discovered a boundary clearing being prepared for subdivision and development, so alerted his mum and a family friend at local land services. Listen in to hear how Ned paired up with Mark and Julie Mills to achieve a massive win and legally protect the local bushland. Over to Ned. Stay curious.
I'm Ned McNaughton. I'm a 16-year-old naturalist, or conservationist and wildlife photographer from the south coast of New South Wales, Australia. So Ned's Forest is very important for two main reasons. The habitat that's actually there and the location. So it's got some really nice old growth sclerophyll eucalyptus forest. And so these trees are like over 100 years old, and they have hollows, which is needed by many endangered species. It's vital habitat for a lot of species. And then the location, so it's a corridor between bushland. So this forest helps provide like a corridor between areas of bushland for species, which is super important. And it's in an area which is probably going to see a fair bit of future development. So having this stronghold here, which we know is not going to be cleared, is going to become even more important in the future. So it's called Ned's Forest, and it's located in the Eurobadala Shire on the south coast. So I started going in the area of bushland back in 2022, photographing the owls and the gliders in the area. So I was photographing and finding so many endangered species on the block of land, like a couple of species of cockatoos, greater gliders, yellow-bellied gliders, a couple of species of owls, like powerful owls mainly. And I really just thought it was amazing, and then saw it was going to be subdivided, and I started trying to rally support to protect it, and it's been successful. So initially when I found out it was going to be subdivided, I just spoke to my parents, and then they helped get in contact with the council, and word kind of got around, and we ended up getting into contact with Julie Taylor Mills, who have been amazing. They have done all of the real work here, and so they got in contact with a group called the Biodiversity Legacy Trust. And so what's happened is that Mark and Julie have actually purchased the block of land, and then they've donated it to the Biodiversity Legacy Trust, and so they will manage they'll manage the block of land and help to take care of it and conserve it. So it's super close to my house, and this all sort of took place just as I was really getting into wildlife photography. There's a pair of powerful owls which live on the block. They have a territory there, and I spent so many hours out in the bush with those owls, taking photos of them, and it's a very special bit of bush. So I went out there on a normal day just to go see the owls, and I noticed that there'd been a border cleared around the whole block by a steamroller or something, and there had been like posts in the ground marking where it was going to be subdivided, and they were going to make it into a whole new little street neighborhood, and I really didn't want that to happen, so spoke up on it, and word got around and it was successful. It was super daunting at first seeing that it was going to happen, but ultimately it was actually I found it to be super surprising how supportive everyone was. Like when I initially spoke up on it, there were people everywhere who were trying to help, and like there were people in the council, there were people in the local community, and people were really, really willing to help and try and get something out of it. And yeah, it was super surprising. So back in 2019 and 2020, that summer, throughout the whole, much of Australia and much of New South Wales, particularly this area, we had some devastating fires that came through. The amount of bushland that was lost, it was just unprecedented. It was horrible. And so there's so much habitat that's gone in this area. And so pieces of bush like this, where it's intact, it's first generation old trees that haven't been lost, they're super, super important. And I think having those fires which happened a few years ago, people were a lot more appreciative of stuff like this and were a lot more willing to help out after so much had been lost, and kind of realised how important it was to have these bits of bush that are intact and are of this quality and aren't all burnt. I think a big one is that if you just speak up on things like this, you can be successful, you can get something out of it. All it takes is one person to speak up and alert people of something like this happening, because you can get other people involved, and people like Mark and Julie, and you can conserve areas like this. You can make a difference. And another big thing is that small areas of bushland add up when areas like this are divided, and saving small areas of bush make a huge impact in allowing wildlife, like corridors, to get from one bit of bush to another. So along the whole south coast and the eastern seaboard, there is a lot of urban sprawl taking place, and so towns spreading and joining, and this is causing a lot of fragmentation of bushland in the whole area. So like large areas of bush are getting divided, and then those areas are getting divided, and it's causing isolated stands. It's not that viable for many species, which need large areas. And so by conserving areas of like that are corridors between these bits of bush, you can make the habitat much more viable and help save a lot more species. So I think Ned's Forest provides a really good example. Like, I'm just some teenager, and I said something, and then a lot of other people came together, and it meant that something could actually happen. And I think this is a really good example, and just shows that if you speak up, you can make a difference. So the Biodiversity Legacy Trust has a website. You can look that up if you want to follow it. And then I post my wildlife photography on Instagram if you want to see that. It's at Ned MCN Photography, or lowercase.
Thanks for listening to this quickie.
This episode was created by our superstar podcast team at TEDxLondon. Until next time,
Stay curious.